Hello, and welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I am, of course, your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 7th episode, our guest is Mallory Willits. Mallory is a student at the Indiana University School of Social Work who is currently pursuing her master's degree. Mallory has spent the past 2 years as a beginning social worker at Fairbanks Substance Abuse Hospital and Adult and Child Mental Health Center. Mallory chose her journey in social work due to her natural ability to talk to people therapeutically and her love for helping others. She thoroughly believes in the power of traveling and lives by the saying, "Jobs fill your pocket, but adventures fill your soul." She has had the opportunity to travel quite a bit of the world, which gave her the opportunity to go to Ghana, where she met her husband, Wisdom. April 3rd, Mallory started a GoFundMe page titled, "Who Said Love Doesn't Cost a Thing?" Here's her description. As many of you know and have been following, I fell in love with a man from another country, and the immigration process is nothing short of a financial commitment. Wisdom is worth every penny, but between graduate school and a number of other financial commitments, the money just doesn't flow in as quickly as the bills come in. It has been just shy of a year since I last saw the love of my life. My dream is to be able to afford another trip to Ghana after graduation, as well as submitting the $1,600 for the next immigration stage as quickly as possible so that there is no lapse in the process. At this point, we can commit to one, but not the other due to finances. Immigration is our priority so that there will be permanency with being with one another, but we are hopeful to see each other again soon as well. Many people have individually reached out to me and asked how they can help. It was recommended that I set up a GoFundMe page to help with our journey. Please know that we do not expect you to donate, but that some people have requested a way for them to do so. Every penny helps and is deeply, wholeheartedly appreciated. Thank you for your unwavering support and consideration. So far, 17 people have contributed a total of $600 of the $1,000 goal over the past 18 days. If you would like to contribute, visit GoFundMe.com/Mallory and Wisdom. That's spelled MALLORYANDWISDOM. Thank you to everyone who went to iTunes and subscribed to, rated, and reviewed The Rob Burgess Show. If you haven't subscribed to, rated, and reviewed the podcast on iTunes yet, please do so now. Every little bit helps the podcast to reach an even wider audience. You can find it at tinyurl.com/The Rob Burgess Show. And once you've signed into iTunes, hit subscribe. Click the tab on the iTunes page near the top that says Ratings and Reviews. From there, please leave a star rating, hopefully 5 stars, and click Write a Review to leave a review. Thanks again for the support. You can now find The Rob Burgess Show on Stitcher at stitcher.com/podcast/the-Rob-Burgess-Show. Google Play Music at tinyurl.com/The Rob Burgess Show Google Play. Tune in at tinyurl.com/The Rob Burgess Show Tune In. YouTube at tinyurl.com/The Rob Burgess Show YouTube. You can also subscribe directly to the RSS feed at tinyurl.com/The Rob Burgess Show RSS. If you're an Android user and you're still not sure how to listen, you can also visit the website subscribeonandroid.com/tinyurl.com/The Rob Burgess Show RSS. And if you have a one-click supported app on your Android device, the app will load automatically. You can find more about me by visiting my website, www.thisburgess.com. The official website for The Rob Burgess Show is www.therobburgessshow.com. Follow on Twitter at Rob Burgess Show. Like the page on Facebook at The Rob Burgess Show. Follow on SoundCloud at the-Rob-Burgess-Show. The email for the show is therobburgessshow@gmail.com. And now, on to the show.
Hello?
Hey, Mallory, it's Rob.
Hey, Rob, how are you?
Good, how are you?
pretty good.
Cool. Do you have some time to talk right now?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I guess just go ahead and tell people whatever you want them to know about yourself.
Okay, well, for starters, my name is Mallory Willits. I suppose I would consider myself a woman of many hats. I'm currently in graduate school for social work, and I'm actually preparing to graduate in 26 days. Woo to that. But other than that, I would say I'm kind of a travel enthusiast, and I'm really big into volunteering. I volunteer for an organization known as Prison Greyhound, and so I'm big into greyhound rescue, the dogs, not the buses. Just to clarify.
Good. I'm glad you cleared that up for everybody, because there were going to be a lot of disappointment ahead for people.
Right, exactly. So that's probably a little quick informational piece about myself.
Cool. Well, I mean, like I said, you're in the message I sent to you. You're a super interesting person, and I really don't even know where to start with the questions, because you just have so many varied interests, and you're involved in so many cool things. I guess before anything, we should probably say we know each other because of Waycross.
Yes, of course. Yeah, what better way to know someone? Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Some of my best friends, I of course know because of Waycross. I'm sure you're the same way.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, we're friends with a lot of the same people, and I'm very close, of course, with your cousins, Emily and Kristen, of course.
Yeah.
Kevin was in my wedding, so
that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, for sure. He was one of my groomsmen. Well, I'm super excited to have you on. What would you like to talk about first of all your varied interests?
Well, I guess Ghana is an easy topic for
Sure.
starters. It's kind of one that I'm most familiar with and most passionate about, kind of. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy
Okay,
to
cool. Well, you
answer
mentioned
them.
you're very into travel, as am I. But kind of explain where that comes from and all the places you've been, just in general.
Yeah, of course. So I really strongly believe in the power of travel. I just think that a lot of people say things like, "Oh, tattoos are so addicting," and I have one, and I wouldn't say that about myself. For me, it's more of a traveling piece. I feel like once I get my feet moving and I go somewhere, I have a passion to go elsewhere. And I think that really comes from the fact that I just really, truly think that travel changes people and the way that they relate to other people, as well as the way that they see the world. So it really gives them several lenses to look through. In addition to that, I just think that traveling is really humbling and empowering for people. So it's something I really preach and tell the young and the old that it's never too late. You should really go. Your days are numbered. And so for me personally, my travel first started when I was younger. My family's kind of always been big into taking vacations, so I've been all through the U.S., and then I started doing a lot of global traveling as well. It originally started with just going to Canada on fishing trips with my family, and then as I moved into high school, I actually started going on mission trips abroad, and I went on a mission trip in Brazil. It was a 10-day medical mission trip, and then from there I just couldn't stop and started going elsewhere. So by the time I got to college, I decided my sophomore year I was going to travel abroad for a semester. So during my time abroad, I went to England, was where my school was actually placed, but I traveled all through Ireland.
Oh, wait, you were in England? Where in England were you?
Yeah, so I was stationed in Grantham, England, which is just about an hour north of London.
Okay.
Train ride-wise.
Cool. I student taught about an hour south of London.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
It was an awesome experience. And
Yeah.
at the school I went to, they gave us short...
What year was that you were there?
It was, let me think back here. So I It was 2009, fall of 2009, so
Cool.
like August to December.
Okay.
And then we just, since we only have classes Monday through Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the week, we just spent the rest of the time traveling, which, since you've been there, it's really cheap once you're over there to get flights elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't think people here know how cool it is to be able to just hop on a train and go anywhere you want,
And for like a really reasonable price.
Oh, I know. It wasn't that much at all.
No, I mean, we could catch flights for super cheap and just you could do day trips easily.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was definitely worth the trip for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I took a day trip to Cambridge. We took another one to Oxford.
I went to Oxford,
Yeah, really cool. I mean, it was just it was just all at your fingertips, and I love being on the train. I read, I listen to stuff, you know what I mean? It's great. I wish I could take that to work,
I agree. I was just in Canada a couple weeks ago, and I said that when I went there as well, but I miss, the underground, the easy access to travel of going places.
For sure.
And, I know Indianapolis isn't a great example of transportation.
Well, if you enjoy driving really fast, I think it's kind of the thing that you want to do. And people are inspired by the 500, and then they treat 465 the same way or whatever.
Exactly. I'm sure that there's other places in the U.S. that have better transportation, but we're certainly not all the way there yet.
Sure. I mean, it's a very car-centric culture in where we live, So.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Definitely. But anyway, I'm sorry, you were saying about England.
Oh, yeah. So during my time in England, I just kind of traveled around while I was there. So I think I mentioned I went to Ireland and France. I have some family there, so I went a couple different places in France and made it over to Amsterdam, and then just to Wales and a number of other places, and Italy, of course. But, there was still so much I didn't get to see that I want to see.
Same here.
But it was definitely a very humbling experience, and really, just taught me that I don't know as much about the world that I think that I do until I really took the time to travel, and there's still so much that I want to learn. And then from there, I kind of took a little bit of break in my traveling while I finished my undergraduate, and then right after graduating from my undergraduate degree, I received an internship from my school that they were going to send me to Ghana for 8 weeks' time to do a social work internship while I was there. And the goal was to build a program for teenage mothers. So I spent 2 months there doing that.
What was the program for teenage mothers centered around?
Well, basically, I was the one who was supposed to be starting the program. I went through an organization known as Cross Cultural Solutions, and they're locally here in the U.S. and out of New York, but they have different stations throughout different countries for you to do volunteer work or internship. So they wanted me, since I was a social worker, to really reach out to the people in Ghana. They have a lot of 16-year-olds getting pregnant and then not having the support system, and the economy isn't really good there, so having trouble supporting themselves and not really feeling engaged with the community. So they just really wanted me to connect those people to the appropriate resources.
Right. Well, that's important work.
It sounds a lot easier than it actually was. So I thought going in, when I started the internship, they said oh, Ghana, it's an English-speaking country, no problem, you'll be fine. That was really not what happened when I got there. Even though, Ghana is technically an English-speaking country, and all their signs and paperwork are written in English, a good majority of people actually do not know English. And so I had to have an interpreter with me to try and communicate with these mothers, and it just became a much more intensive program than we thought it was going to be in the first place. So really I was only able to get the stats, gather the troops, and then kind of know like where the needs were by the time I left, and then hopefully someone else took that over after I left from there.
Okay. So, I guess, tell us about Wisdom. I mean, what do you want us to know? How did you guys meet?
Yeah, okay, so, actually, Wisdom is my technically now husband. I'm not sure that a lot of people know that. But we met my second day in Ghana. The organization that I was with took us to a shop there, and they said, like, oh, we just want to take you to get some snacks, maybe see some things that you would see back in the U.S. So we walk into the shop, and it's got, like, cookies and soda and Coca-Cola and all this stuff that we recognized, and turns out that Wisdom, it was his shop. In Ghana, 70% of the population is considered to be unemployed, but a lot of them have their own businesses that they're running, just like selling produce that they've grown or a number of other things, and his happens to be a drink shop. So the rest of the volunteers that were with our group had kind of left, and I was left in the store by myself and in a little bit of a panic that I wasn't going to be able to communicate with this man behind the counter. But it turns out he spoke English, and we quickly became friends, and he kind of helped me through my whole 2 months there. In the experience, there were definitely some tough times for me, and I was the volunteer that was there the longest. Everyone else was coming for like 1 or 2 weeks and then moving on. And so I really wanted to make sure I immersed myself in the culture and didn't just stay back at the organizational house and hang out with the Americans. I really wanted to know the Ghanaians. And so I spent a lot of time with him and his family and really tried to learn about the culture. And then after my 2 months was up, we basically agreed that we wanted to see where the relationship would go. We decided to keep dating when I came back to the States, so I returned to the U.S. I was gone from like May to the end of July, so I was here from August until January of last year, 2015, when I went back to Ghana for the second time. And at that time, Wisdom proposed to me, and in their culture, you do the proposal, and then 2 days later, you get married.
So how did you feel about that when you found out that in 48 hours?
Well, it was definitely something that I would say we had discussed and kind of talked about prior to me going back over there to visit. It was kind of one of those things where we knew where our relationship was at, and we both kind of felt like, well, you know, if this isn't going to be moving forward, then there's really no, like, this long distance thing from the U.S. to Africa is really not practical. And so I knew that that's how his process worked. He had given the option of us just getting engaged and then applying for the fiancé visa for him to get here that way.
Right.
But a lot of people had kind of discouraged me who had gone through that process before and said, like, especially with him being from Ghana, the African continent is considered to be like the hardest immigration-wise to get people here. It takes the longest. And so they're like, for him to get a fiancé visa, it's probably going to take a while, and you're better off to just have the paperwork that you've gotten married, and the process will move a little bit quicker. So we had spoken to some attorneys, kind of figured out how we wanted to go about that. And it definitely was a fast process, but there really wasn't much hesitation for me. I knew what I wanted, and I'm sure that you've heard me say this before, but I just I'm really consider myself, I suppose, to be a spiritual person, and I just felt like I was led there for that reason, and it just so happened that I met him the second day there. I kind of really believe in fate and everything happening for a reason, so it worked out for me the way that I wanted it to, and then knowing that even through the immigration process, with him getting here, the chances of his family being able to come for our wedding in the U.S. were slim to none, because it's hard enough to get him here. So we decided to go ahead and have a traditional Ghanaian wedding with his family, go ahead and sign the appropriate documentation, and then start the immigration process with the U.S.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is he Muslim? Is that correct?
He's actually not.
No. Okay.
There's a good reason why you would think that.
Well, I thought that I had seen maybe pictures of some sort of Muslim ceremony. Would that be accurate?
So that is accurate. So we had a Christian wedding. He's actually Catholic.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
some of his closest friends, basically in Ghana, the town that he lives in is pretty much divided as far as Christian and Muslim community. And there's the Muslim community lives on a certain side of town, and the Christian community kind of lives on the other, but they all work alongside each other. But it's really not very common for the Muslim community to come out to Catholic or Christian weddings, or even ceremonies for that matter of any kind. So Wisdom just so happened to have one of his best friends. His dad is actually the chief of the local Muslim community there. And so a bunch of the Muslim community came out to our reception and kind of did like a traditional Muslim wedding gift and kind of like presentation, and gave us traditional Muslim names and things like that to really tell us that they considered us to be a part of their family as well, and that they had seen Wisdom as their son for a long time. And so that's why you're thinking that he's Muslim, is just because he's very close with the Muslim community there, and he really if you went into his shop, he wears the traditional Muslim garb sometimes, so it's easy to mistake that. But
okay, fair enough.
He doesn't know a stranger, and he speaks 7 languages, and because they have
it's amazing how other people around the world just speak several languages, and it's just like assumed, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It really, like that. I felt like, wow, there's something missing culturally for me, that I only am fluent in English, and they're exposed to all these other languages.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Wow. Well, that's amazing, and it's got to be hard, especially now, because we have, of course, Donald Trump, and I'm sure that's not helping anything in your life right now.
No, it's definitely not. I am on social media a lot, and I really try to limit what I like, not to become offended about what people post or what they say, but definitely I feel like Trump has quickly brought out this hatred in people to say exactly how they're feeling. And so I'm seeing some things that people post, and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize you felt that way.
Yeah. Well, it's making things that weren't acceptable to say in public now suddenly acceptable to say in public.
Exactly. So. Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a scary thing, and he definitely talks about immigration, and many people have said to me, like, do you think that this is going to affect your immigration process and things like that? And it's definitely a concern of ours, but luckily we're already kind of in the swing of things, we already are through one phase of the process, so we're really hoping that we'll be through all of it by the time election comes.
Well, yeah, let's hope so, definitely.
Yeah. And hopefully, by the time election comes, Trump won't even be an issue.
Yeah, right. Well, we can always hope, for sure.
Yeah.
But okay, well, that's quite a story, and so I mean, has it been hard as far as your family? Have they been concerned for you as far as I mean, this is pretty drastic. I mean, you're bridging so many divides here: the ocean, continents, race. I mean, country. I mean, you know what I mean? You have a lot of work ahead of yourself. Has that been hard for you with people, either friends or family? Have they been concerned in any way?
Yeah, it definitely has. There have definitely been people who have said things that they're concerned that he would just be coming here because he wants to get to the U.S. and that he actually doesn't care about me. And it's I kind of take those things with a grain of salt because I know my relationship and I know how I feel and I know him as a person, and so but I have been really rather shocked at what people feel like it's okay to say to other people. And I know a lot of it is just a lack of education. So one of the main things that I get all the time, originally it was kind of a race thing. There was, it was kind of a concern in my family originally. They were just concerned about how other people were going to treat me type of thing, concerned about future children and if they would feel like they had a place to fit in. And then, additionally, Wisdom's first language isn't English, even though he's fluent in English. How is he going to fit in culturally here? He had given me the option to go to Ghana, but that just wasn't what I wanted for myself. As much as I love to travel, I don't want to live there permanently. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of, the other pieces, Wisdom went through college and he got his business degree, but that means nothing when that transfers to the U.S. He's not going to carry that over here. They don't say, your degree in Ghana totally works here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. So, thinking and looking at, how is that going to affect us financially when we talk about him getting a job. And we've had those conversations, and the bottom line is what I've quickly learned is the people who really know me and have come to know him are very supportive and very loving, and even people who maybe had some concerns at first, with how quickly it was moving, or were kind of just afraid of how other people would treat us. They've really come around, and I think they've realized that I'm okay with it, and I'm at peace with it, and so they're really backing me and supporting me. And I actually have been blown away by the amount of support that we've gotten from people. Mm-hmm. And there certainly are still those people who decide to say things that are not nice. But I think you're going to get that no matter what. It wouldn't matter. I've certainly added a bunch of things into the mix to allow people to say more things than maybe if I married a Caucasian male from Indiana, but
I think that says less about you than it does about them, right? I mean, they're kind of showing you who they are, and really all it cost you is, now I know the truth, It's I don't have to wonder anymore. All right.
Right. And it definitely has taught me a lot about some people that I maybe would have thought would have been more supportive. Mm-hmm. But the people that I knew, my best friends, they are very supportive. My family is very supportive and behind us, and that's really what matters to us. And his family is, they love that. His mom cannot speak English, but she loves me just the same. We can't communicate. Mm-hmm. And so it's definitely, there's a learning curve, and I'm really hoping that if we decide to have kids in the future, that I will be able to learn some of his local languages as well so that I can better communicate with his family. But there's definitely challenges on both ends of the spectrum, and we're just thankful for the people who are behind us and kind of try and ignore those who aren't.
Sure,
and
definitely.
Educate them.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of the biggest things that I can remember happening when I first decided to go over there was when the Ebola outbreak happened. That's when I first went to Ghana, and it just so happened that my work was concerned. My coworkers wanted them to quarantine me for 2 weeks, and so it was just this big, everybody was in this panic that I was going to bring Ebola back. And for me, I kind of was irritated in the sense that, there are no cases of Ebola in Ghana. There have yet to be any cases of Ebola in Ghana, but people associate Africa as being, one whole entity and don't divide the countries within it. So it really has just given me an opportunity to further educate people and make them more knowledgeable. And sometimes they believe me and sometimes they don't, but that's okay. And,
yeah, I mean, a lot of those people haven't been anywhere else either.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people are like, America's the greatest. It's like, you been anywhere else? Do you know?
Right.
Do you have anything to compare that to?
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, well, that's that's quite a story, and you'll have a pretty awesome story to tell your grandkids. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be quite the tale, but
yeah.
Well, I'm very excited that it seems to be working out as far as your GoFundMe thing. You've raised about half of the amount so far in 9 days. It says you've raised almost $500 of the $1,000 you were trying to get. So that's exciting.
Yeah, we're really thankful for the support that we've received from people, and I think people assume that, if you marry someone, they can just, come on over. You're married. They're family now. But it's not that easy. And it's definitely not a cheap process. And especially with me being in grad school and everything else, it's just, we have just really been hit with a lot of the financial pieces of getting through the process, and it's actually moved a little bit quicker than we thought it would, which means that the bills are coming in a little bit quicker. So I actually was a little bit nervous about the GoFundMe page originally, but some coworkers really encouraged me. They wanted to donate, so I chose to go ahead and open it for those who felt like they really wanted to participate. I know a lot of people really follow our story and really want to be a part of it. So I'm thankful for those people. And yeah, we're really blessed.
Well, I was planning on putting this out probably a week from Friday. So will people still be able to donate then?
Yeah, we're planning on keeping it open for a while. I know some people still want to donate that maybe just aren't in a financial situation that they can, or they're waiting for a certain paycheck or something like that. So we definitely plan to have it open for a while. So it should be there, and it's actually just under I created a link for it, so it's just under the GoFundMe.com, and it's /Mallory and Wisdom, so it's pretty easy to find.
Cool, awesome. Well, he's a good-looking dude, so I can attest to that.
Yeah, he's pretty cute.
I can put my stamp of approval on that, but it's quite a love story, and it's kind of like you guys found each other despite all these things, and I think that makes it all the more special. You know what I mean? That all these obstacles were not able to keep you apart. So
yeah, definitely it has, and it's stressful, but I know that by the time that we get through the whole immigration thing, it'll all be worth it. And luckily, I have grad school keeping me busy right now, and worrying about all of that. And the reality is it's in the government's hands, not ours. So
Sure.
whatever they decide is what's going to happen.
Definitely. Well, was there? I wanted to ask you about the prison greyhound thing you do. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, okay, so Prison Greyhounds is an organization that's actually outside the home base is in Indianapolis, and they just started a couple years ago. I want to say this is their third or fourth year. I got involved with it because my parents were on the board of directors, and my stepdad actually still is. But what it is they bring up retired racing greyhounds from Daytona, Florida, and they basically place those dogs directly into the correctional facility in Putnamville, Indiana. Each dog is placed with 2 inmate handlers, and those inmates actually, I wouldn't say socialize them, but they really just get them prepared to be a pet and learn, what it's like to be a pet instead of being an athlete at the track in Daytona. So they really they take them to church with them, or they may take them to visitation to see their families or any classes that they're going to. Basically anywhere that the inmate goes, the dog goes with them. They sleep in the dorms with them. So it's really, the idea is to get greyhounds homes, but the plus side of this particular program is that it's also benefiting the inmates. And really giving them a sense of purpose and direction while they're incarcerated.
Right. And sadly, the reason that you have these greyhounds is because the people that race them can't use them after a certain time. Is that correct?
Right. So you have to retire a greyhound by the time it's 5, but most of them do not. They are not good enough to stick around that long. Now, I will say that the greyhound's world has really improved over the years. I know that in the past, people have said a lot of things about, the abuse and neglect and, how they would just kind of get rid of the dogs. And that may have been factual back in the time, but luckily, in today's society, tracks are really doing good at pairing up with an adoption kennel, and so they go straight out of their track kennels into adoption kennels, which is like a holding zone until they're sent out to adoption groups throughout the U.S. So tracks are now even paying for, if a dog gets an injured leg while it's racing or anything like that, they're paying for the repair of the leg and then sending them into the adoption kennel. So there's definitely a bunch of improvements that are going on in that world, and greyhound racing is kind of becoming a thing of the past. A lot of tracks are closing, but they're really doing good at making sure that they are connected with homes rather than, just sitting in a kennel somewhere.
Well, it's good to hear that things have improved over time. So.
Right, yeah.
But so you said this has the effect of being good for the prisoners and the dogs, right?
Yeah, so the way that we do not actually choose who the inmate handlers are going to be. The way that process works is we work with Putnamville Correctional Facility, and they actually wean out the applicants, the inmates that want to participate in the program. Our stipulation is that they have to be nonviolent offenders. And so they get screened and then get chosen and sent to us. And we have anywhere, depending how many dogs we put in there at a time. We started at 4 dogs, and we've moved up to 8. So we had anywhere between 10 to 20 inmate handlers in the program at one time. And they don't pick who they're paired with. The correctional facility pairs them up, and then they get to choose together what dog is going to be theirs, and things like that. So it's definitely a good program for the inmates as well, simply because it builds a lot of social skills for them. We require them to write reports about their dogs, so they have to do a lot of writing. They also have to utilize a lot of teamwork when working with the other handler that they're paired with, and a lot of times they're paired with someone that they wouldn't usually associate with within the correctional facility. So they're definitely getting a lot out of it, and the Greyhounds are giving them so much love that they're probably really lacking while they're incarcerated. So we are constantly receiving thanks from the inmates that are involved in saying how much the program has impacted them, or how we've they don't have visitors that maybe come to see them, but that the dog has really been a source of light for them. So we're definitely seeing a lot of positive improvements, and even the prison has said that the dorms that the dogs are placed in are much calmer than they used to be prior to the dogs being there. So it's definitely bringing a lot of serenity and peace within the dorms. So we're hopeful for the future and hope that the program continues to be successful.
Well, that's great. I mean, my wife keeps, every time I see a picture of, how many Greyhounds do you have?
So
at any one time?
We probably have our own kennel, but my parents have 4. We had 5 at one time.
Okay.
But I mean, Greyhound people, we always laugh that we're kind of like a cult, in the sense that, like, once you have a Greyhound, we say it's like a bag of potato chips. You don't just open the bag and have one chip. You, like, sit there and eat the whole bag. It's kind of like that with Greyhounds. Like, you can't just have one. And if you can see the floor, then we say there's room for one more. So
Sure, exactly. Yeah, well, like I was saying, my wife, every time we see one, tells me we have to get one, and I keep having to tell her no, because I know that will happen. I know that as soon as it happens, there's going to be 5 Greyhounds living with us.
Right. Well, if your wife ever needs some Greyhound love, some love on my Greyhound.
Don't.
In the meantime, until she convinces you otherwise.
Okay, we're going to have to edit that part out, because she can never hear that, ever. But yeah. Well, the pictures I have seen are very, very cute. So they look like great dogs. I've never had one before, but it seems like they're very they snuggle a lot, from what I understand. So
yeah, they're definitely very tolerant and loving animals, and they're gentle giants. They're just 45-mile-an-hour couch potatoes. They're pretty lazy.
Well, very cool. Awesome. Well, I know. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I know you have other businesses. Your Scentsy person that sells that. I mean, you sell a couple things, right? Yeah,
I've kind of put a little bit of. I mean, I'm still selling them. I guess haven't been promoting them as much as I used to with grad school. They've kind of been the thing that have gone on the back burner.
Sure, that's understandable.
But I still sell Unique, which is a makeup company. So I'm still doing that, and I'm also still selling Stella and Dot, which is a jewelry and accessory company. But I do plan on selling Scentsy again. I've taken a little bit of a break from it. But I just love the independent business piece. I'll be honest, when I first joined doing the independent business thing, I was like, I don't want to be one of those people that like posts on Facebook all the time and is like, buy this, do this. But I just think it's a great way to connect with other people, and I'm not really big into like personally messaging people and saying like, hey, are you interested in buying my product? But if people are interested, I certainly encourage them to reach out about the things that I sell. I do recognize it's not for everyone. And then the other thing that we're still doing is my mom and I have started our own business, and we are making things out of recycled wine corks. So that's kind of cool. We're still getting that off the ground, but we have more events coming up, so it's definitely not a lost cause or a lost hope at this time. I just think it really allows you to learn a lot about yourself, and it really builds your people skills. I thought that my sorority did that for me when I was in college, but I just think that the ability to talk to strangers is something that people are losing nowadays. We're so engaged in, watching our televisions or our iPads or engaging in the internet, and we're really lacking a lot of the face-to-face or over-the-phone communication that we used to. And so I really encourage people to reach out and talk to somebody you don't know. The worst you're going to get is a no, and so what do you do?
Exactly. Well, I mean, we're only here once, you got to make it count, there's no dress rehearsal for this. It's, you got to just go out and do it if you want to do it, so.
Right.
Well, we always talk about music. What kind of music do you listen to lately?
Oh, well, I listen to all kinds of music, actually. My rule of thumb for music is, if I can't dance to it, then I'm not really interested in it. I'm big on busting a move, and so if I can shake my tail feather to it, then I'm all good with it.
Cool.
I probably am not much in the music world right now. I feel like I'm so disconnected from the radio and things like that nowadays, that I used to be. I think it's my age. I feel like I'm getting old and grandma-ish, and I work with kids, and they know stuff that I'm like, what song is that? And I kind of feel like my mother a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know what's going on.
Well, it's not a coincidence that everybody thinks that the best music ever made would happen when they were 12, whenever that happened to be,
Exactly, yeah. I'm still listening to those Spice Girls. What am I doing?
Who isn't? I mean, why lie?
Right, exactly.
Well, that's awesome. Well, was there anything else you wanted to promote or get out there I didn't ask you about? I mean, I just feel like you're such a varied person. I sort of don't even know if I covered everything or if there's anything else you wanted to talk about.
I don't know. I think, let me think. If there's anything, my mind is I definitely do a lot of other things, but I'm trying to think of categorize it all. Well, I think one of my other big things is just advocacy and social justice piece, which really just comes along with my social work background. So I'm all about people really standing up for what they believe in, and I think that every voice matters. So I'm just constantly encouraging people to do that. I currently work in the addictions field, and so that's kind of my baby right now, and kind of really just educating people about mental health and addiction and things like that. But yeah, I really think that people don't speak up enough, really.
What do you mean by that? About their own problems that they're having with addictions, or?
Well, I think it's just this, there's still a lot of stigma that unfortunately is going around in our society. And there's stigma with a lot of things. It's not just mental health and addictions, but that's what I see. We were actually just talking about this yesterday in one of my grad school classes. I don't know if you saw back in December, Target got into some trouble for having a shirt that said, "I'm so OCD, obsessive Christmas disorder." And so, I really just have constantly encouraged people to, really speak up, and it's the education piece again. we wouldn't say to people, I'm so diabetes. Like, you would never say that about yourself. So we really shouldn't. We have this huge stigma around mental health, and we teach our kids growing up, like, if you have a cut, then you put a Band-Aid on it. But we don't teach our kids, like, what do you do when you're sad, or what do you do when you're feeling this way? And so there's just this, like, kind of darkness that covers the mental health field, and people who are living with mental health conditions, whether it be addictions or bipolar or schizophrenia or a number of other things. And I just think it's a lack of education and really a fear in society. And I just encourage people to educate themselves, and if they don't know, to ask. Or really to, if people are saying things like, oh, I'm being so ADHD right now, or I'm being so OCD right now, to really, question that and say, like, well, would you say, like, I'm being so Alzheimer's right now? Like, think about what you just said. And even though when we say it, we don't mean it in that way, and a lot of times people don't mean any harm.
You think it maybe trivializes the thing by being so flip about it and being like...
I think it's really offensive to the people who do have those diagnoses. Like, the thing that I can think about is, when I don't hear it as much as I used to, but when I was younger, people would say things like, that's so gay. Well, if you look up...
Yeah, it's amazing, like, when I was in high school, how common that was to hear.
Right.
And I probably said it myself even, and I'm not even a homophobic person, you know what I mean?
Right, like, I know I've been guilty of that myself when I was younger. And
sure.
Like you said, like, I meant no harm.
And kids today will never understand that, thankfully. You know what I mean? I'm glad we've moved on from that or whatever, but, like, I don't really, like, understand. I don't know if they understand how far we've come in a short amount of time on that. So.
Exactly. But the problem that came with us saying that is that we associated that word with being something that was stupid.
Definitely.
Or that was, instead of using the word for what it's actually for in the dictionary, which means, like, happy, and so it's just kind of interesting, the words that we use to describe things, and I think that without meaning to do so, we often insult other people, and I just think it's really important to be sensitive to that and be mindful of that, and to recognize, like, when I have said things that have insulted people, to say, like, you're right, I didn't know, like, I was ignorant to that, and I apologize for doing that. I didn't mean to insult you. But I think people are so quickly to jump to arguments or...
well, it's because their ego gets bruised, you know what I mean?
Right,
and you just can't have an ego about that thing. You just have to be willing to be like, all right, I was wrong. I don't have to continue being wrong now that someone has corrected me and told me how it is from their perspective, So I definitely think being able to take that into account is very important.
Right. I do think it's a defensive thing, and we just immediately jump to, like, protecting ourselves and saying, like, well, that's not what I meant. I can't even believe that you thought that's what I meant.
Right. Absolutely.
Instead of just, saying, righting our wrongs and being like, yeah, I did do that, and that wasn't really the best decision. We have a hard time with owning our mistakes.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think transgender people are really going through a lot of that education process with people now.
Absolutely. And, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's something that obviously is a big talk in our society right now, and especially in the social work profession. It's something we're really trying to sort out. So, for example, I work in a hospital-type setting for addictions, and a big thing is, okay, so if somebody comes in and they're transgender, or say somebody presents as being female, but they're actually male, well, where do you place them on the unit? Do you put them in the male dorm? Do you put them in the female dorm? Do you put them as what they identify with? And so it gets, it's really something that it's still murky waters, and people are still trying to figure out. And they have that same issue within the correctional setting as well. My brother worked in the local jail here for a while, and they were having that same thing where it's like, well, where do you place these people? You don't want to take away their dignity and worth, and you don't want to take away their, a sexual orientation or anything like that, but you also don't want to put them in a setting that isn't going to be safe for them.
Right.
But
absolutely.
then the other option is isolation, which we don't want to do that either, because that creates a whole nother realm of problems.
Definitely. Well, especially since we both live in Indiana and this has suddenly become such an issue.
Right.
Sadly. I mean, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, but it is Indiana, and we're always moving backwards instead of forwards.
Oh,
but then again, we could be Mississippi, and we could be kicking people out of their homes for being in interracial relationships.
Yeah.
So, always that.
I guess there's always that we can never go that low, I guess.
Oh, right. At least I have them to knock instead of just being able, because I can't say much positive about what Indiana's doing right now. So that's the only other thing I have.
Right, exactly.
To back me is Mississippi.
Exactly.
Look at Mississippi. Point fingers.
But on the transgender thing, I think that people have to be willing to be wrong, and it's like, I didn't really know maybe at first how to talk about people in the past tense, before they transitioned, and if you still say, whatever the gender that they were and not the gender they are, it can be a problem, and I hadn't really even thought about that, but once I did, I was like, okay, well that's fine, I'll be referring to them that way, but it's just a matter of just putting yourself in someone else's shoes and thinking, how would I feel if this were happening to me, and just kind of acting accordingly.
And I think it never hurts to ask. Like, I think that people are so afraid to, because we are so afraid to offend other people, because we're a society that quickly does jump on other people if we don't agree with them. But, I mean, I've had some wonderful conversations with people who identify as transgender, and a lot of them would say, I would love it if somebody would just ask. Better to ask and learn than to assume and be wrong. So I just think that that's something that we're still learning, and, we're definitely making improvements, as much as I think that we're not some days. When I look back at where we were a long time ago, they're definitely, we're moving forward.
Yeah, even if it doesn't feel like that sometimes. Yeah. It's true. I mean, just within, the last few years, things have changed so much. I mean, if you told me 5 years ago that gay marriage would be the law of the land in every single state, I wouldn't have believed you. I was like...
No, I wouldn't have either.
Yeah, because...
Not Indiana.
Oh, I know, absolutely not. And in the 2004 presidential election, Karl Rove made sure to put on state ballots the gay marriage question, should it be legal or not, because they wanted to drive out, Republican voters. And that was a thing that they could count on, people getting up in arms about and swaying elections because of that. And here we are just 10 years later, and it's no big deal. Nothing is, the world hasn't ended, gay people are married, and there's not, the last chapter of Revelations hasn't come yet, so it's okay.
Yeah, all is well.
Yeah, it's really okay, guys, and it didn't affect you in the first place, and it doesn't affect you now, so.
But isn't that the common theme for us in our society, is we are constantly wanting to put our nose and opinions in other people's business? I mean, I feel like while we are making improvements, it's also well, isn't this kind of the same as, not thinking it's okay for interracial relationships? It's none of your business, and it's not your decision. It doesn't affect you. So, why? I just feel like while it's different situations, it's a similar scenario every time, and you would think that we would learn from the past, but we don't always.
Yeah, absolutely. Or people wanting it to be like a past that never actually even existed. Like they want it to be even more, more backwards than it actually even was at the time. Like just imagine it was that way. So, but yeah, it's really a problem. But in retrospect, it looks like not a big deal every time. Every time it happens, it's always like, well, why wasn't that a thing sooner? Like slavery's over. Okay, well, wasn't it over like 100 years before then?
Like why are we just now figuring this out?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's something that people so quickly need to remember when I so often hear when we talk about these movements of Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, and people don't understand why in Black history they still are upset or coping with what their ancestors have dealt with in the past, or why that's still so important to them. And I think we forget how that wasn't that long ago. That, and it's still a part of their history and a part of their culture. And I think it's important for us to let them have that and let them, cope with that in whatever way they feel like they need to.
For sure, definitely. Wow. Well, we've certainly covered a lot.
A wide range of topics here. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I thank you so much for being here. If anyone has the ability to give to the GoFundMe, I would encourage it. I'll put a link up when I post this episode.
Perfect.
And hopefully it will help you guys become, being in the same place sooner rather than later.
Right.
And let's do this. Let's do another podcast whenever you guys are united, and we'll talk to you guys together.
That'd be really cool. I'm sure that he would love that, and you can try and decipher through his accent. That'd be great.
Okay, awesome. If you can help, that would be cool too.
I can help you. His English is pretty good. He just says a couple words silly. So,
okay, awesome.
You'll survive, but yeah, that'd be great. And I really appreciate you reaching out to me and asking me to be a part of your show.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing our link and everything. So thanks so much for thinking of us. And I'm sure if Wisdom was here, he would say thank you as well.
All right, awesome. Well, good luck with everything, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, talk to you soon.